we're working on this airway. This tool here we used before we had manure injectors on the back of our spreaders. And what we did is we went over the ground after we applied manure with this tool here, and what it did is it just kind of fractured the ground a little bit. It opened things up to introduce a little bit of soil with the manure that you spread on top of the ground, and it also gave a spot for the manure to get down into the ground with minimally affecting the surface that you were applying manure to. This unit here we don't use anymore, so we're actually going to send it to an auction. We're just going through it now, replacing any broken tips on it, making sure all the bearings are good. And we've also got counterweight cement blocks that go on there. We're going to put them back on there, and then we've got a bunch of parts here for it that is going to go along with the unit here when we send it over to auction here. We don't use it anymore. It's a 20-foot airway. It's got 2 rows of teeth on it. Just kind of basic, really. So we've got a bearing that we just cut off this front gang here, and I think that's it for bearings that need replacing. Colton, my nephew, he's putting on the last tip, tooth, whatever it is, on there before long they'll be done. We'll pull it outside and we'll put the cement blocks on there. Alright, one of the other jobs that the boys got done with while I was gone is they got this 900 all back together. We got the new front tires on it. We did the exhaust and whatever. Now they were able to save this tie rod tube by running this tap here down it, and it cleaned up the threads, and then they were able to save this tie rod tube. So we didn't end up having to replace that, but it does have 2 new tie rods on it. It's got the outer one on the right, and then it's got the outer one on the left, along with new tie rods, obviously new tires, new exhaust. And the other thing they ended up doing is they ended up replacing the 5th wheel on it. So we've put close to $4,500 into this truck here in the last couple weeks. The old 5th wheel plate that was on this truck, we had trouble getting the jaws to unlock, and rather than just putting a rebuild kit into it, we felt the top part of the plate was wore, and we just didn't want to take any chances with it. So they ended up putting a new plate on there. That was about $900. The tires were about $1,000. Exhaust system was like $2,100. Then we got like $180 or so tied up into tie rod ends. Each were about $180. And we're actually going to take this truck to an alignment shop, and they're going to do a front end alignment on it, being that we've had to change them tie rod ends out, and because we got the new tires on there. So we're going to get in the shop here and work on this 7200 now. I just thought I'd bring everybody up to speed on what was going on with the 900 here, because I forgot to put that in the last video on all the stuff the guys were doing while I was gone. So let's get in the shop and work on that 7200. We got some other projects going on in there too. Their boys are working on an airway and putting brakes on a Ford truck too. So, well, we've got everything unbolted on this. Now we're going to be able to lift this right off, and everything's off. All the lines are unhooked. The boys have got the airway out of the shop. Now they're changing oil on the 9320, and they've got to replace the shocks on the hood. Just some basic cleanup is all. Jason's working on putting brakes on this half-ton truck here. So I'm going to see if I can't get somebody to help me lift this unit off in there, and we'll get it on the bench. Therefore we can dig at these studs. We got to take these out, and then we've got this broken stud back in here that we'll pluck out of there, and then everything can go back together. I did have trouble with a couple of the lines. I stripped them off. They actually twisted off because the swivels didn't move. So I've got to order some lines for it. And I've got to put some new packings on a couple of these other lines here. So looks like I've got some help over here now. We're going to lift that off in there. Alright, we've got the whole turbo and all that crap off. Now we'll have to take out these little gaskets and stuff here, but we'll blow all this off. We gotta take all these studs out. We gotta take every one of these studs out of the head, and then we've got to weld something on that back stud there. Get that dug out. But before we do that, we're going to take and get these studs out of this exhaust manifold where the elbow to the EGR cooler goes on to. So we're going to have to get those 3 studs out first. Alright, we are not having the greatest luck with getting these studs out of this manifold here. So we're going to take this manifold off of where it's bolted on to the turbo itself and get this in the vise and just heat the hell out of this triangular part here and go back after these 3 studs and see if we can't just get them out of there. But I'm afraid that I might have to replace this exhaust manifold piece here. This piece alone is $800, and I had some coolant return lines and an oil return line that I twisted off. So I've got to get those ordered up, and I've got 4 more bolts to get out of getting this manifold away from the turbo itself, and then we're going to put it in the vise and see if we can't dig them out. Got the exhaust manifold split away from the turbo. I heated up all around that, got that nice and orange. Now I've got the nuts welded on there. Now I'm going to heat it up again, and we're going to try to spin them out. Alright, we have given up on the exhaust manifold. I've put more than enough time into this damn thing. I've welded several nuts on there. I've heated it, I've cooled it, I've welded a pile more. It's just not going to come apart. So we're going to get a new one, scrap this guy. Now we're going to go into digging the studs out of this head here that holds the exhaust manifold on. There is a broken one here. And we're going to remove all of these so that we can install new ones. Alright, so what we're going to do now is we're going to dig these studs out. And what we're going to do is we're just going to weld nuts onto the studs so that we can turn them out with an impact or something here. Well, we've dug all them studs out down through here. Now we just got to go after this one that has been broke off. The whole reason why we're doing this job here. So that's broke off down inside the head there. So we're just going to set up a nut. We're going to use a nut to weld through the center of, and then we're going to try to pull that out. Hopefully we can get that out of there on the first try. Gotta get a hold of the shipping company and see what it would cost to ship it.
Two more of the drums tomorrow. Then he said you should have somewhere for you or something too.
Yeah.
He goes, well, if anybody's just wondering where I am, I'm out, sitting here doing it. All right.
All right, that ended up working. Alright, there it is, right, that one's going to be hot, so there it is right there. So, there's the broken stud. Now we can start putting this thing all back together here. So we ended up having to get a new manifold for it because I was not able to get those 3 studs out of it, so I'll have all new gaskets, new studs, and then obviously a new manifold. And then we've got a couple of lines that had to get replaced too because they twisted off when I was trying to get them off of the pre-treatment or the old treatment system here. So we'll get after the rest of this here shortly. Well, we've got to take the 900 in to get a front end alignment done on it. The boys put new tires on it here the other day, and we had new tie rod ends put on it. And I know the front end's probably out of alignment just a little bit, so rather than mark up these tires at all, I figured it'd be best to get a front end alignment done on it now. Junior, he's actually up in there. He's got to get it running, and we're going to take it down to Rudy Schmidt's in Syracuse to have a front end alignment done on it. And I think I spoke about this earlier, but this ended up getting a new fifth wheel plate on it too, and the wind is really picking up here. So we're going to run down into Syracuse now, drop this truck off, and have the front end alignment done on it. It'll only be a day or so. Hopefully when I pick this truck up, I can be picking the payloader up at the same time. So we'll let this air up, then we'll get out on the road and get this dropped off. Well, we just had to stop for a bottle of pop, didn't we, Bob? Huh? It's alright, right? Don't tell Mom. Huh? Alright, so we're about, maybe halfway or so into Syracuse here. And this is, this has been a while since I've driven this truck. It's kind of nice to drive it, and it's nice and quiet. So, we're on our way in to get the front end alignment done, only because I had those 2 tie rod ends replaced, and we measured everything, we counted the threads and everything else. The front end alignment is probably not even out of whack, but the tires cost me just shy of $1,000, and I really didn't want to chew them tires up at all, so it's best to get the front end alignment done now, and then I haven't got to worry about prematurely wearing the tires out. And it's best to have a front end alignment done when your tires are new, if you can have it done then. And the shop that I'm taking it to, they do front end alignments on everything from cars to big trucks like this. So I've been using them for quite a while. When I had the leveling kit put in my Dodge truck, they ended up doing front end alignment on that, and when Jared did his lift kit, they did the alignment on that, and they just do a good job. The shop that we're taking it to is Rudy Schmidt in Syracuse, so we're going to be there in a little while. Travis is going to pick us up. Our kids are out of school this week, so Andrew's over the shop with me today, and he really didn't want to go for a ride into Syracuse. He wanted to hang out with the other guys at the shop, and I said, you better come with me. You'll be a burden to them guys, right, Bob? Yeah. Alright, we'll be there in a little while. Alright, we're up on the big road now. Wind this old girl up a little bit. It just occurred to me that I've had this truck just 8 years this week. I had ended up buying this truck down in Pennsylvania 8 years ago. 8 years ago this week. It was the first part of February. So it's been a decent truck. High gear. There we are. Now we're in traveling mode now, huh, Bub?
Big click here.
Yeah, let's sound the Jake brake. It's not as loud with these mufflers on there. Listen to this. Oh boy, huh? Boy, it's nice and quiet. You can hear yourself thinking here. You haven't got that droning sound of the straight pipes getting after you. Right, Bob? Alright, so we're going to be there in a couple minutes. We just had to jump up on 690 for a little bit. get around Syracuse. Then we'll drop down into where Rudy Schmidt is, and yeah, Travis will pick us up. We'll head back to the shop. Well, we're here. I'll take that. Oh, we just got to park out back. I don't know if Travis is here yet or not. I don't think so. Well, we got another Kenworth here. T800. Recognize that truck. A couple of them here. Another Peterbilt.
Kind of looks like Memorial Farmer's truck. A little.
Yeah. Levi Lumber, logging and excavation. Alright, we're just getting here. We've got the truck parked next to that damn Peterbilt. Oh well, which truck looks better? The W9 or the Peterbilt? We've got a T800 BL Gardner Farms. I don't recognize that name, but I'll have to look them up, see where they're from. Well, we're waiting for parts for the 7200. This truck 8 here, we've got all new brakes going into it, and Jared's starting to put the transmission into it. So he's got the flywheel all bolted up in there. Next thing he's got to do is he's got to put the clutch up in there, and then he has to get the transmission over onto the jack and get that rolled in there. But we're putting all new brakes around this, so we've got new brake drums going on. The shoes are already installed. This is a Dayton wheel here, so it's got these spoke wheels, and then the brake drum ends up bolting to the spoke wheel itself. They're kind of a cumbersome unit to work with, but this truck here has a complete suspension in it. They ended up replacing these walking beams here back all in the fall there. We went to pull out of the field with a load of corn, and ended up breaking this walking beam on this side, and I ended up having them replace the other side as well. This truck's 20 years old here, so back axle and the front axle's getting done. This here needs kingpins, so we're waiting for the kingpins to come in, and then we're going to swap those out too. But we're going to wait to tear it apart until we actually get the kingpin kit.